Phil Hartman discovered that there was this place just starting up. It was an improv troupe called the Groundlings.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. This is my pit bull, Leroy.
It's an improv comedy sketch group. They teach classes.
I thought you told me you loved me.
I did at one time before I met Jessica.
Only twice!
For an actor to take a Groundlings class, it's a great thing because you have to work without a script.
And they would grow into this improvisational juggernaut that schooled all kinds of famous folks, including Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry, more SNL folks.
There's many varied careers that came out of the Groundlings, and people want to make money. Mostly you want to survive. You want to quit your job as a waiter.
In 1975, I saw the Groundlings. It was somewhat of an epiphany. I realized that I had to do this just to get some extroversion into the equation.
They'd ask for an audience member to come up, and I was backstage.
And Phil all of a sudden leaps up and begins doing impressions.
I never saw an audience member come up with that kind of excitement and energy. It was like a hurricane hit that stage, and I mean in a good way.
They thought he was so good that they invited him to join the troupe.
Seeing Phil at the Groundlings was Phil being truly Phil. You know, as time went on, you understand that his personas are his protection and are his personality.
Not unlike Jonathan Winters or Robin Williams, people around Phil who know him say that he can tend to hide behind his characters. It's hard to find the real Phil in there.
If you think about improv or stand-up, most people are just playing a bigger version of themselves. Phil was exactly the opposite of that.
I gotta keep this straight face or it won't work.
He could absolutely get lost into any character, but oftentimes there was no there with Phil.
He had a fabulous character called Chick Hazard, Private Investigator.
Worthington sailed through the air in a lofty arc over the boulevard and abruptly lodged himself in the hole of a 40-foot fiberglass donut.
Phil always had this classic sensibility to him. He was almost like this dude who came up in the 30s and the 40s. He loved old Hollywood, that sort of rat-a-tat-tat sensibility. He loved the clothes, he loved the personalities.
As he begins to pursue improv and the Groundlings, he gets better and better and starts getting more and more work.
One of Phil's co-stars at the Groundlings was a guy named Paul Rubens. He developed a character named Pee Wee Herman.
Well, good morning. It's incredibly clever. It's enjoyable if you're 7 years old, but if you're an adult, you find another kind of humor there, right? He's winking at you the entire time, and that's what made it so effective.
Permission to come aboard, Pee Wee! You have to know the passwords!
Phil was the first person that Paul and I brought in to be an actor in the show, and he had a character, Captain Carl.
I gotta use your latrine! Latrine, that's the password!
And that's the moment I knew that this show was going to be a hit.
Missy Vaughn!
Yes, Captain Carl.
I knew that I wanted to be Phil's girlfriend in it. It was really just hitching my wagon to a star.
Captain Carl, I always thought, was Phil's alter ego. It was who he would rather be, so that he didn't have to deal with the hassles of the world. He could just get on his boat and sail around the world.
Please welcome Philip Hartman. Phil?
One thing we can pretty much establish is that every Los Angeles male went on the dating game at some point.
And a lot of celebrities, people who went on to become famous, when they were young, passed through that as like a rite of passage. It was a stop people made on the road to fame.
Okay, bachelor number 3. What road sign should I heed while dating you and why?
Slippery when wet.
Mostly, it was a way to get paid. And Philip was selected by the woman he was opposite, and then she stood him up for the date. And then it seems like everyone in the Groundlings went out on a first date with Phil.
Oh my God, he was kind of a rock star around the Groundlings because he was just one of those people you wanted to be with.
And then the idea that has always been noted with Phil, and that will be noted up until the last day of his life, begins to kind of take hold, which is that there is some part of Phil that is very hard to reach. Phil Hartman is not vulnerable. Phil Hartman will not let you into that place.
So the problem is, by the time you find out that Phil might not be marriage material, you're already married to him.
I, Philip, take you, Lisa,
As my lawful and wedded wife.
as my lawful and wedded wife.
I really believe in marriage. I took him at his word that our relationship was going to deepen and expand and grow and be forever. We didn't have the money to have a big wedding, so we just had a party.
Lisa and Phil's wedding was beautiful.
How do you feel, Miss Yvonne, about Captain Carl getting married to someone else?
I couldn't be happier for him. I'm very happy.
They looked adorable together, and he was crazy about Lisa. This was the one.
Decided to have our wedding videotaped in 3D.
I know that his career started to happen a little bit. He got a pilot for something, he was doing more commercials.
Do you have ice hockey by Activision?
Think you're ready for it? I'm ready! Fine. Cash your charge.
Phil was in the Gong Show movie.
Well, can I show it to you now?
If you were in the Groundlings, those are the sort of gigs that you got. Like Phil was in a Cheech and Chong movie.
Hey, I don't think you better light it in here, man. What? These gas fumes, man. Oh, man.
And they paid the rent for a week. That was how you started to make money.
We're all gone and Phil's still in front of the camera.
What would you do?
We'd been married just a few weeks, and the relationship changed dramatically.
They shoot the bride and groom.
I was the wife, and he no longer had to pay attention. He would tell me, you need to go have your own life, you're a black hole, no one could ever fill you. My sense of Phil was that he was really two people. He was the guy who wanted to draw and write and create and come up with ideas.
I had my hair changed to pure brass.
The actor-entertainer, and then he was the recluse. On our first anniversary, we went to Santa Barbara. I dressed up in this trashy lingerie or something and got a whole outfit. And I jumped up on the bed and I stood over him and he said, "Must you? Really?" So I said, "No." Took it off, put a robe on, got my book out, and I knew that was at the end.
Doesn't seem like there are noisy fights, but he is elusive, he is beyond her reach. And then she has to walk away.
Surprisingly, Phil's not done with the institution of marriage. His next relationship is going to take him through the highs and lows of his professional and personal life. But he's also going to find that it's going to lead to his untimely end.
Okay, Jim, that's enough.